Hi, it's Jen DeTracey. Welcome to episode 24 of My Messy House, because MS is raw and it's real. And today we are going to talk about a dirty, 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 dirty word: comparison. Now, before I get into talking about comparison, I just want to say, if you're tuning in for the first time, this is a series about the messiness. I call it My Messy House, which is a metaphor for this, the upper floor, right? And the messy thoughts that we have and how that impacts our life, and how, when you get messy in your thoughts, life becomes messy. So it's all about taming the messy house, right? And this podcast is geared towards people that live with fatigue and MS. But if you're tuning in and you have fatigue, you live with fatigue, and you don't live with MS, you are most welcome. So let's go back to comparison. So when we think about the messiness, I want you to take a moment to think about a time in your life in the last week where you compared yourself to someone else, and then you felt crappy, like really shitty, horrible, right? That is the danger that comes with comparison. We either elevate ourselves to feel better, or we are lesser than. So we're either lesser than or greater than someone else. And this can happen just naturally in our lives. I remember long before I was diagnosed with MS, I was working for a record label for an artist called Sarah McLachlan. I don't know if any of you know her. She's a Canadian singer-songwriter, and in the 90s, she was big, even in the early 2000s, but now she's not as well known. And she was a global artist, and I worked for that record label building her fan club. And we were a small team, and I was in charge of a lot of different departments in order to make that happen. And it was interesting because sometimes I'd get into work early and I'd be like, yeah, I'm here before other people, and aren't I great? Aren't I fabulous? And then I would leave work before other people, and people would be staying later than me, and I'd be like, oh, I guess I don't look good now. I guess I'm kind of a schmuck because I'm not sticking around until the end of the day, even though I've been here for like 9 hours, right? Then I feel bad about myself. All in the same day, this would happen. Can you relate? And so when we look at comparison in the present day time, so that's like me looking at myself and saying, wow, let's say I met a woman that I'd known from a long time ago. I'm just going to take a sip of water here. From a long time ago. And I was surprised because we met at an art gallery, and she told me that she'd been diagnosed with MS. And she was doing fine. She had no fatigue and very little. I think she just had occasionally have a little tremor in her hand or something like that. And she was a little bit older than me, and we were both in our 40s. And so I was really happy to see her, and I was not happy that she was diagnosed with MS. However, I was happy that she was not really affected by it, other than, the emotional. She wasn't suffering physically in any way. And I was jealous. I was jealous that she didn't have fatigue and that I had fatigue. And so I was starting to compare myself, and I was becoming lesser than in that moment. And that did not feel good. Did not feel good for me, and that energy that I may have been emitting towards her, I imagine wouldn't have felt good, even though it was kind of hidden, right? And this is the danger of comparison. It doesn't matter where we're at in our lives. We're always going to be either more than or lesser than someone else. Eckhart Tolle, author of Power of Now, he talks a lot about that as well. I'm sure many personal development folks, authors, experts do. And it's true. And so I try and remind myself when I catch myself doing that to stop and recognize, because I just end up feeling a lot of times like crap, right? And even in work-related areas, you know, it's not even just around health. I mean, it's just a natural thing for our mind to go to. So how do we change that? Well, the first thing is just to become aware of it, and to become consciously aware. Oh, wait a sec. Oh, there I am comparing myself to the person that is, you know, oh, I'm a relapse remitting. I live with relapse remitting MS, and that person lives with progressive. So, you know, I mean, there's nothing wrong with feeling grateful for knowing that other people are having a harder time than you are. That's you know, gratitude is like awesome. So let's differentiate gratitude from placing ourselves as greater than or lesser than. And I think what a pivotal lesson was for me when I started feeling lesser than was I started to reflect on the people in my life, people that I don't live with MS. And this is early on in my diagnosis in the first couple of years. And I look at their lives and I say, you know, they have struggles too, right? They're struggling with things. I had a friend that was struggling financially, was going into deep debt. Actually, several friends going to deep debt. I wasn't in that position. I had a friend that was having a major surgery, having her uterus removed. There were a lot of things happening. And when I looked around at people that didn't live with MS, maybe had other things happening in their life, and I thought, you know, we're all humans, right? We're all as Eckhart Tolle would say, we have more similarities than we know. We're all eventually going to die and become ashes. And you know, we're really in many ways not that different, even though we come from different backgrounds. We have different struggles, we have different things that bring us joy. And just to recognize that if we can come to a place whenever we can remember to do that, create that awareness around recognizing when we put ourselves in that place of diminishing ourselves or elevating ourselves, and bringing ourselves back to, oh, just catching that and not beating ourselves up for it, just saying, oh, I just did a comparison and that didn't feel good, or yeah, I just elevated myself over somebody, and I don't know, I don't really think that's, I don't, I'm gonna just move on from that, you know, and just let it go. It can be a very peaceful transaction with ourselves, right? So that's my food for thought. So just wrapping up from that for a moment, is that recognizing that everybody has their struggles in life, and how people are is in their suffering is human, right? We're all human beings doing the best we can. And when we elevate ourselves or diminish ourselves, we are all that's created from that is feelings of ego that do not serve us. So just being able to recognize that and let it go. Let it go. Be okay about it. Don't beat yourself up for it, but just let it go and keep moving on with your day. That's it. I'm Jen DeTracey. This is My Messy House, because MS is messy, and MS is messy, yes it is, but it's also raw and real. Thank you for tuning in today. It's a pleasure to have you here. Subscribe, write comments below about what your opinions are on elevating and diminishing oneself, and how you are able to navigate that for your own personal experience and journey, life wisdom that you have, wise ones out there. And I'll see you again soon.